What's happening, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more Tori Amos, and we're back to conclude the 1996 album Boys for Pele. Once again, I'd like to give a big shout out to Nigel, and in fact, I talked to him a couple months ago, or a few months ago, and I was saying that I had lost access to the drive he made available, and he was saying he didn't remove the tunes or anything, so yeah, there's a bit of an ambiguity, and I say this because this is the last folder that I've already put on my music computer, so for the time being, I'm going to have to figure out how we get to the next step of the Tori journey, because I've no doubt she has more albums than this. But yes, ultimately right now, this is the last track I have in my music computer from Tori that I have not yet reacted to. So one way or another, we'll figure it out and the Tori journey will continue. But as I said, I felt like I should mention this up front because I don't exactly know what comes next or when/where I'll get access to it. In any case, the last track on Boys for Pele is Twinkle, which is a visual quality, and of course it is often associated with stars, which twinkle whether or not you're singing the classic melody of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, which I always think of the Mozart rendition. But yes, the point is, it is usually used as a visual characteristic, a visual dynamic when something is flickering in terms of its brightness and output of light. Now, of course, something can twinkle in a more terrestrial manner if something is reflecting light and casting it off in different directions. You could call that a twinkle. But yes, I do wonder whether this is a metaphor or a figurative articulation of that visual quality, and maybe it relates to a person rather than a celestial object. I have become well aware that Tori's songwriting is often filled with interpretive phrases and even entire lines where it could apply to different things, and maybe there's a specific reference point being made, but it's a bit opaque and a bit difficult to discern. And then on this album particularly, there's been a number of songs where I understand the words and I have some sense of what they could mean, but I really don't know what's happening thematically. So yes, I have appreciated people commenting on the different songs as we've gone through her larger catalog and this record specifically, because at least in some cases I've oh, okay, it's framed in a way that I at least can derive some understanding, even if, again, the full narrative or the source of the writing for Tori remains a bit opaque. So yes, I am curious to hear what this one will be. I will try to catch what I can. This is Tori Amos. The song is Twinkle, and it's the final song on her 1996 album Boys for Pele.
That star can twinkle, and you watching it, dear. Boy so hard, boy so hard. But I know a girl twice as hard, and I sure said I'm sure she's watching it too. Said no matter what tie she's got in her right dress or tied, I know she's watching that star. Gonna She said I killed a manatee. I've gotta stay hidden in this abbey, but I can see that star when she twinkles and she twinkles, 'cause I sure can, and that means I sure can, that means I sure can. So high, so high.
Wow. It came to an end a bit abruptly. I was prepared for that to continue on. It has the feel of another one, and I know there's been multiple songs over the course of her catalog, and I think at least one or two on this album specifically, where people have said, sometimes she'll just sit down a piano and start playing and singing, and it's a real extemporaneous song, and there's been like, oh, make sure we're recording, like, we gotta get this. So, yeah, it has the feel of a song that's just kind of coming out of her melodically and lyrically. Now, I don't know, maybe this is one that was actually fully composed before the recording, but yeah, it really does have an extemporaneous feel to it. And yeah, like, I think we are specifically referencing a person, a girl, a female, who is twinkling, but I didn't catch enough to know exactly what that means. I do think there was a reference to a boy also, and so there's a number of possibilities. She could be an omniscient narrator, like looking at two people from, an independent vantage point. It could be someone who's embedded within that same world and story. The girl could be her, she could be reflecting on her youth, or even just, viewing herself from a detached perspective. But yeah, I do wonder exactly the context of the characters that I think were referenced. I do wonder, twinkling, does that mean radiating, with like, shining in a more conceptual or figurative way? And yeah, I mean, the song, I wouldn't say the mood is melancholic, but it's certainly not bright and jubilant. It's just sort of elegant and deliberate. It's, sort of soft, and it's taking its time, and it has a beauty to it, but it sounds also maybe a bit fragile. So yeah, it feels like there could be something to that in terms of the music articulation representing the themes or the emotions or the fragility of the scene being painted, which again could be more figurative or allegorical even. But yeah, a beautiful song to end the album on. As I said, it just took me a bit by surprise when it came to an end, because it felt very sudden, like it just, oh, we've reached the end and that is it. Now again, that could be deliberate, just leaving you with this hanging feeling and the emotion that is perhaps unresolved. Or also, it could be the idea of it was sort of extemporaneous and she played until she completed what she was trying to feel, and that was it. So it didn't have like a big grand coda like musically, but it came to a natural petering out moment when she was done telling whatever story she was. So yeah, again, it's that beautiful, very human vocals from Tori where we can hear the breathing in, we can hear, the lip sounds as she prepares to deliver a line. It feels very intimate and very human in that regard. It doesn't feel like overproduced. Now, again, I've heard other artists where the vocal, like Sinead O'Connor, I've listened to songs of hers, and you can, again, hear the breathing and, hear the little sounds that I think in a lot of cases and for a lot of artists would be edited out or, sort of mastered over with other sounds. But here, again, it gives an immediacy and a vulnerability to it. And this one, again, like, there might have been some other, like, soft, subtle supporting musical layers, but even if that is the case, the main two elements here are her voice and the piano. And it's, a very stripped down minimal tune, even if there were some, like pad synths or, like a string supporting but maybe I'm just imagining that. Maybe it really was just the piano, and it was, like the second hand of the piano that was doing some like supporting layers while the main, like the lead melody was being played by the other hand. In any case, a beautiful end to an incredible album, and one that, is as artful as just about any album I've heard. It is a very, like, it's an artist's album, if that makes sense. It doesn't sound like an album of, catchy radio tunes, which, to be clear, there's nothing wrong with that. Making a tune that has, a very memorable quality, or a chorus that, someone like, oh, it's an earworm. You'll find yourself humming it when you're not even aware of it. It's not an album like that, even if, again, I'm not criticizing albums that have that quality, but this one feels more of like a piano poet, a real artist's album where, we're just exploring musical and songwriting creativity rather than trying to write something that'll be a hit, or something that will, sort of like charge up the charts in terms of, single sales or whatever. Though I have no doubt this would be a popular album, certainly among, people who had already been listening to her for the albums before this. But in any case, a fitting end to a wonderful album. As I said, I don't quite know what comes next, or when/where I will be able to get it onto my music computer, but one way or another we will figure it out. And indeed, if you have the albums, or Nigel, if you're still watching, let me know if there's a way to figure this out, because again, the old links that I had for the folder with all the Tori material, like, it didn't follow. I remember, I don't know, 4 or 5 months ago I tried to follow it, and it was like, this is no longer available, or like, this leads to a dead end, or whatever it said. So in any case, we'll figure it out. We will continue with Tori, and I will try to do, again, I reacted to the video for Cornflake Girl, but I'd like to react to more of her music videos too, so I'll try to keep that going on my Patreon. Do let me know what you think of this, and I will see you next time. Peace.